Dangerously close.
My guest today is Petros Chrysafis. Petros is an independent human-wildlife conflict specialist in California's Central Valley. His work largely consists of predator-livestock interactions, habituated animals, and property damage caused by wildlife. He graduated with a BSc Honors Zoology from the University of Aberdeen and with an MS Biology from California State University, Fresno. He works with ranchers and livestock owners to promote coexistence by monitoring predator presence, introducing deterrents, and researching new deterrent potential. His work spans from the central Sierra Nevada across the valley floor itself. Petros is currently researching human-associated scents as a predator deterrent on 5 Central Valley ranches. What's up, Petros?
Hey, how's it going?
Is your name Greek?
Yeah, I'm from the island of Cyprus.
Oh, cool, man.
Yeah.
Someday I would love to visit the island of Cyprus. It sounds awesome.
It's pretty cool. I'm biased, but it's pretty cool.
Well, yeah, man. Once again, now that we're recording, I do want to say thanks again for coming on the podcast. I'm glad I was able to catch you in the Twitter DMs before the potential demise of that platform, man.
Yeah, because I don't know. We'll see. But yeah.
But that's honestly that's all I know about what you do, man. It's like I follow you on Twitter, and I was just like, this dude seems like he's doing really cool stuff. But man, I just like right out the gate, man, really just kind of like a broad question. It's just kind of like in your profession, what do you mean by like what do you like particularly like for you is human wildlife conflict, like, and what you deal with?
It's a really good question. It's also broad, but it's really good. I think it's pretty much anything that has to do with, like, in a way that wildlife and humans interact that leaves one of the parties, usually the humans, in a negative, either a negative perspective or in a negative way. So, like the most common stuff is obviously the number one is wildlife attacking humans.
Yeah.
Right. And that leaves you either dead or injured. And then there's more indirect ones. And the one of the major ones in North America is, of course, livestock loss. But nowadays we also see a lot of videos online with like bears going into trash and getting into people's houses and stuff like that. And that in and of itself is a conflict. It's basically either loss or damage of humans or their property is the long and short of it, basically, of how it, it translates to by wildlife, either indirectly or directly.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Honestly, it didn't even cross my mind to think about the very obvious, which what conflict would be like. Yeah, if I was mountain biking and a mountain lion came down and took my head off, that would be a conflict for sure.
Yeah.
But I guess like
short one, but yeah,
a very short conflict. I had a guest on here. He's like does a lot of solo, stuff. Actually, kind of up where you're at. A lot of the stuff in the Sierra Nevada mountains. I don't know if you go up there much, but he was saying he was in some ultralight tent, and a mountain lion because he did the wrong thing and he opened his food up in his tent, and the mountain lions. But I guess they're pretty well deterred by tents. I guess it's a lucky thing. He said it just kind of circled him for a while before it decided to go off and find something else to eat.
Yeah. I mean, it's fairly common in terms of, that kind of interaction. That in and of itself isn't necessarily a negative interaction, right? I mean, I'm sure it left them with a new impression of mountain lions. But yeah, it's just there's a lot of stuff, and obviously the more alone you are and the more time you spend in the mountains, the more likely that you are to run into this sort of thing. And in other countries in the world where, there are people that walk for miles in the forests and stuff like that, it's a daily risk for some people, which is really, really interesting in and of itself.
Once again, man, another thing that it didn't cross my mind because, I mostly was just thinking about the United States, and I was thinking about like specifically a lot of what, the work that you do. Yeah. And so I'm thinking about ranchers, thinking about wolves, other types of predators. But yeah, I guess I didn't even cross my mind that like there are certain countries where like you are in danger of, you know, a hippopotamus, a tiger, you know,
Yeah.
even a crocodile. I mean, that I've seen some pretty horrific stuff. Did you see that that one crocodile? It was in somewhere in India. They had to call the army in because it had eaten so many people.
Oh,
It
I don't
was
know that one. I
it
didn't see
was
that one, no. But yeah.
it's and it sounds like I'm talking about something out of like the Weekly World News, but it's not. It was like a crocodile like the length of a bus, and they brought in soldiers because it had been that gnarly.
Yeah, and I mean, it's if you read a lot of the accounts, especially with like man-eating cats, right? So big cats, they're pretty smart creatures, right? So it's not like they're just gonna stick around and wait it out. Like especially tigers have a reputation of being very smart and being able to outwit you and stuff like that. So sometimes you just call in a bunch of people to do the work because you need that manpower to find that animal,
Uh,
which is really interesting in and of itself.
Shout out one of my favorite movies of all time. I wonder if you've seen it, man. Have you seen The Ghost in the Darkness?
Is that a Vietnam film?
No, it's a true story about when
Oh,
they were. It's in India. It's Val Kilmer and uh, Michael Douglas, I think, is the guy that it's a true story about these man-eating lions, and they were trying to build a railroad, and the lions just
yes.
kept picking off
I know the
railroad workers.
story. I know the
Yeah,
story, but I haven't seen the actual like film, but I know the story. Yeah, I don't know if was it in India or was it in
yeah, it was because it was still
Ethiopia?
it was still the British Empire, I believe, and that's why. And
Yeah.
they were trying to build this railroad for some kind of imperial reason. And
Yeah.
so, honestly, to tell you the truth, man, there's so many aspects of this film I disagree with. For one thing, I'm rarely going to be on the side of the hunter, the human hunter, and I'm rarely going to be on the side of some kind of imperial project. But the movie is just so good. Everybody out there, I stake my reputation on this. Ghost into the Darkness is a good movie.
Well, so like I mean that's part of the reason why human wildlife is getting so much traction is because there's an inherent man versus the wild attitude to it, right?
Yeah,
And unfortunately or fortunately with the internet the way it is, it just kind of like all these stories like blow up and they're interesting stories for sure, right?
yeah,
There's a lot of them as well with man-eating tigers and stuff like that. If you dig around, there's a lot of really interesting stories about it. Back when I was an undergrad, I always kind of took them with a grain of salt, and I was like, that's not, it's not a real thing that happened. But it having to deal with a lot of wildlife now, um, I don't want to say my perception has changed, but I definitely think that there's a lot more smarter individual animals
yeah.
than we make them out to be, especially coyotes.
Oh, yeah. I love coyotes, man. I got a little
Mm.
little family coyotes live right by me. In this, I got this little creek area over here, and they've
Uh,
decided this is one of their favorite spots to bed down. I don't even know what they're eating, man, because I live in a city, but it's just there's been so much
yeah,
development, and they've just destroyed so much of the green space that they got to find a spot. But I just want to just go back to Ghost of the Darkness and one, and
sure.
I don't
No,
want
no, you're
to
good.
I don't want to come across because I know that is bad PR for lions, or it's kind of like the way I feel about Jaws. First of all, great movie. Jaws is a
Hmm.
great movie, but
Hmm.
such bad PR for sharks. And yeah, a shark could eat you, but that's not gonna, that movie did unnecessary damage to shark
I think
populations.
so. Yeah, for sure.
But with that here, this just brings me to my real point, and I brought all that up because I didn't think of any of that stuff. What I was thinking about is a lot of what I follow, and this is the media that I consume. I see a lot of stories about ranchers or mercenary hunters that have been hired by ranchers killing wolves, other wild animals, sometimes even grizzly bears. And I wanted to ask you, like, what kind of impact are these people having on the ecosystems that they inhabit?
Yeah, that's a huge question, right? So like it kind of depends. Are you talking about when you say these people, are you talking about the ranchers or the hunters themselves or both or
I think what I mean is like maybe I mean it by policy wise, like where
okay, yeah, policy wise.
because and I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
There you
and
go.
also some of the stuff is a little bit sensationalized, but there are instances where they go up in a helicopter and kill wolves with high powered rifles. I so I know I hit you with a really broad question. Feel free to answer it any way you want to kind of go at it.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a tricky medium, right? The in today's world, it's kind of like if you have certain ideas, left or right leaning, you also tend to align yourself with other ideas that are left or right leaning, and you might not necessarily agree with them 100%,
Yeah,
right? So it's unfortunate that these animals, especially like the more charismatic predators, have been associated with a lot of the environmental activist, the right situation. And so in my opinion, there is a lot of pushback to that idea because of who advocates for these animals, right? So you see a lot more, at least I see a lot more um, direct vitriol and a lot more direct like argument and just various different things online because I post a picture of a coyote online,
yeah,
right? And I like it. It would be a huge lie to say that the predators out there don't have an impact in the ranching, industry in and of itself. The impact is hugely varies from location to location, operation to operation, and so forth. But it's really interesting to me, especially so where I am right now, we don't have wolves. We had one wolf that came down after like for a little while, then got hit by a car, and that was it. So as far as we know, there are no confirmed wolf packs here. But since we got wolves in the northern part of the state, there's a lot more anti-wolf talk coming from people here, which for me, I'm like, yeah, okay, I understand where this is coming from, but you're just repeating things that you've been told to repeat,
yeah,
right? You don't have any experience with these animals at all whatsoever. You haven't had any experience with these animals for at least 100 years,
yeah,
right? So it comes off in that perspective, and yeah, like there's definitely policies that various ranching, I don't want to say institutions, but various ranching groups and stuff like that will advocate that are not directly to the predators benefit, right?
yeah,
um and then there's a lot of pushback back and forth with obviously listing and delisting animals and all that kind of stuff. And um the impact varies for per location. I think, like I found in my experience, the overall more right leaning a state is, the bigger the impact that exists both environmentally and in other ways, in other policies wise, because especially during election time, it's very easy. Like the environment and the predators and stuff are a very easy target for someone to pick and advocate against to try and get votes, or advocate for and try and get votes,
yeah,
which is the unfortunate reality. On a more like day-to-day ground basis, I think a lot of these people don't really have a huge impact, right? In terms of like, it's hard because my experience, in California obviously is a lot different than someone else's experience in Idaho or Montana or in other states where they're a lot less predator friendly. But um, you talk to people, and a lot of people, at least that I talk to, like seeing coyotes, like hearing coyotes, like the idea of mountain lions and stuff like that. But they also have a hard line against when they like that idea, and that line stops when it starts interacting with their livestock, right? And sometimes not even interacting. Like sometimes they catch a mountain lion on video near a pen, and that line is drawn, right?
yeah,
Um, and so yeah, it's kind of tricky. It's unfortunate that these animals are caught in this political landscape, in this political whirlwind, because they're, even if you don't look at them from an animal perspective, you just look at them as a natural resource, right? They are a natural resource. And some people want that natural resource to be managed more heavily than others, or to have the ability to manage them more heavily than others, which is fine, all things considered. It's part of your voting, right to choose what you want to vote for, but uh, I think a lot of it is greatly inflamed by this constant like polarization between, at least in the US, the two sides.
I I could not agree with you more. And it's so sad that the politicization, I can't say the word right now. Anyways, that it's getting trapped into this binary politics where exactly what you said, where things are getting where unlike things will both be thrown into the same bucket and it goes to one side.
Hmm. Yep.
So I mean, and for certainly, I've actually known people that I consider to be conservative, right leaning people who care about animals, and
Hmm.
they don't want to have all of the wildlife killed off, or all the old growth forest cut down, or uh
Yeah.
even like somewhere like in Australia, you can have a very conservative right leaning person who doesn't want to see the Great Barrier Reef dead. So but yeah, it's as you say, it's there's nothing you can do because it's these people are fighting for votes, and this is what their donors want.
Yeah, yeah, and it is, and also interestingly enough, I actually met kind of a lot of few of like fairly Democrat-leaning individuals here that are against predators, which is weirdly, or against the environment overall, which was kind of a weird experience. Usually, it tends to be more of the conservative people that do have an eye for conservation for nature, but
Yeah,
um, yeah, and it's an unfortunate circumstance because your candidate might not, not fit all the boxes what you want your candidate to be when you're voting, but you're going to vote for them because you don't want the other side to win,
yeah,
right? And you just kind of take the good with the bad, which is not the way it should be, right? Especially from someone who's born and raised in Europe. I don't think it's the way it should be, honestly. But yeah.
and to your point, actually, I've seen this myself over and over and over again, uh and there's reasons for it, but you get this picture. People that are left leaning are going to be more environmentally conscious. They're going to talk about climate change, and they're more likely to maybe be involved with an organization like PETA or be vegan. But the thing is, there is a lot of conservation that exists because of uh, not to be stereotypical, but it's true. A lot of right leaning people are the ones that are more likely to be duck hunters or
Yeah.
fishermen, and if they want their wetlands or
Hmm.
whatever type of ecosystem may be where their recreation occurs. So they have a vested interest in and oftentimes some of those outdoorsman type sports actually have been huge factors in preservation. So
Yeah, and it's really also really interesting that sometimes the outdoorsmen clash with the ranchers in certain aspects, which is really interesting thing to watch. Because we again coming back to this whole idea of like polarization, you tend to lump in the fact that like, okay, the ranchers want to go shoot the predators, and so do all the hunters because they kill, all the elk and the deer, or at least that's what they say. But you get some people, especially houndsmen, right? For mountain lions who will go out with their dogs and will tree up a mountain lion and shoot it, right? They tend to advocate, at least based on just what I read and stuff, they advocate for a much better management of the animals than other hunters will. So they'll
yeah,
clash with them in that regards. It's hard because it's hard to keep up with that kind of stuff because in California, mountain lions are protected,
yeah,
right? And they have been protected, so there's no talk about them being managed, and I don't think there ever will be.
yeah.
But
Anyone that's out there doing it is poaching.
yeah, exactly. Well, you can do it. You can do it with a permit. So
Oh,
if you have three livestock depredations within an X amount of time, so is like I say, three strikes and you're out, right? So three depredations, then you can get a permit and you have 10 days to go out and shoot a mountain lion within a certain radius, right? Just to ensure that you're shooting the right mountain lion. So you can do it with a permit, and then sometimes USDA Wildlife Services will do it for you, or you can get the permit yourself. But you can't keep the animal, you can't keep the trophy. You have to take the whole thing in. Um, Yeah, if you do it in any other way, you are poaching in California, at least.
Yeah. Well, hey man, I guess like swinging it back away from the hunters and back to
Hmm.
the conflict with, like, where we kind of started with ranchers, uh, and also just what you do. I was going to ask, like, what are some of the main things you do as a human wildlife conflict specialist? Like, what is it? What are your responsibilities? What do you go out and get done?
Get yelled at a lot.
Get yelled at
So
by
it
who,
is.
man? Who yells at you?
It's mostly a human job, right?
Okay.
Like everyone has this idea, this really cool idea. Like the reality is that most of the times it's just you're interacting with the human element of it versus the wildlife element of it. So just a typical day, usually, if someone contacts me and says like, "Hey, I need your advice, I need your help," and stuff like that. If it's a livestock depredation and the weather is good or it's recent or whatever, then I go kind of have a look at the dead animal. Um, Sometimes it's easy to tell what killed it just by looking at it and looking in the surrounding area. Sometimes you have to like start cutting up and like going under the skin and pulling the skin apart, like
Oh,
pulling
so
the hide out.
you do actual like forensics at work.
Y- Yes and no. So like yes, I do, but like my reports can't be used in an official capacity. So
Okay.
if it's used in an official capacity, it has to be the state or the federal department that does it. But I can nail down at least what did kill the creatures, right? Goats, sheep, cows, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and then that helps us because that gives us an idea of what actually is out there that actually is killing livestock. And then I talk to the rancher and I say, okay, here's your legal options. Here's what you can do, and then here's what I can do for you, and here's where you need to go to state or federal to get things done, right? Uh, and then we just kind of go from there. If they want to work with me, then the idea is we put out cameras and we monitor the surrounding area, depending on whether or not the depredation was early or recent. We kind of do, like, I call it the immediate action plan. So I say, okay, here's what you need to do right now to keep your animal safe, right? We implement that and then we kind of monitor and see, is this plan working? Yes. Then we just kind of devise something more long term, right? If it's not working, if there's more kills, we change things around, right? And I have a variety of tools and arsenal that I use to spook creatures around, basically. Um, and eventually, hopefully, we find something that works, right? And then we keep that in our pocket, and then we start venturing into other tools that may or may not work, and
Can
then
I can I
constantly,
can I back you up just one
yeah.
second, just for the photography?
Hmm.
And I've seen a lot of your, like, the photographs that you
Hmm.
capture. Are these like I mean, are you kind of like, not to, I mean, for lack of a better word, is this kind of like a trap? It's like a, you're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
trap the animal into a photograph, correct?
Yeah, so they're called, it's trail cameras, but the scientific version of it, or rather the version that is being used by scientists, is called a camera trap.
Camera
And
trap.
it's an infrared motion activated camera. So you put it out in the woods, and then it has a little infrared sensor, and then every time an animal goes by, it'll take pictures.
How do you guess where a, like do you, I
Uh,
mean, or I guess guess is a silly word. I'm sure you have like a system and
mhm.
tactics, but how do you I don't know how to put this, because guess was the word I was trying to use.
You can use that word; it's fine. It doesn't
How do
matter.
you make an educated guess where's the best spot to set your camera trap?
I mean, it comes from a lot of experience doing this, right? But there's a few safe bets. So if there's water out, if there's a trough out, or if there's a natural spring or a lake or a pond or whatever, that's a really safe bet in California, right?
Yeah.
Because all the animals are gonna visit that area. Uh, then I usually put some near the kill site. The carcasses have to be like, I usually, ranchers will do this by themselves, but I usually kind of say like, hey, the carcasses need to get rid of, like, you need to be disposed. They can't stay there. So the carcasses will get removed, but I still leave it in the area because there's a lot of scent, there's blood and stuff, right? So an animal might visit it. And then you kind of go off there. There's game trails. If you're looking for cats, you try and find vantage points. Some like as much as I hate using the Pride Rock analogy from Lion King, it's actually like not a bad analogy, right? Cats like good high vantage points. So you try and find a nice vantage point and you put a camera there.
Oh, that's crazy. So like to find a mountain lion, it really is like find a Pride Rock looking spot and you might catch them.
Yeah, yeah. Or I mean, in more often than not case, it's just a piece of flat granite, right? That overlooks the area, and you put it out there because then that, especially if it's heavily vegetated or covered enough, that'll be a good spot for a mountain lion or a bobcat to kind of look through. And
Do they
then
have do they have like particularly good vision? Is that why they're up there?
yeah, they have good vision, they have good hearing too, and a good sense of smell. So it's just a combination of everything. Usually these out rocks are sorry, my dog is being noisy. But anyway, these out rocks usually have a gust of wind coming through, so they can pick up a lot of smells too. Um,
That's so cool.
yeah, so it's just kind of stuff like that, and then you kind of try and deduce a little bit, like if okay, if I was an animal and I was trying to get from point A to point B, which way would I take? Right? What would I change? What would I not change? And then it just kind of goes from there.
Yeah, so
So
you're like actually just trying to get in the mind of a mountain lion potentially.
yeah.
I guess I didn't fully ask. So I mean, like we've discussed coyotes, uh,
Hmm.
like mountain lions, bobcats. That's kind of like your primary predators. Do you have anything else?
Black
Any
bears,
bears?
yeah, black bears, foxes, gray foxes, and red foxes are also, they're not very commonly uh involved in anything else but chickens, but
Yeah,
sometimes they might take the lambs, and stuff like that. So foxes occasionally. The Central Valley is a home to the San Joaquin kit fox as well, which is an endangered subspecies of kit foxes, and they're like 5 pound little foxes. They don't actually kill anything most of the times, but because they're endangered and they're protected, there's a lot of regulation regarding what you can and can't do near them,
yeah.
both from a livestock perspective, but also from development and stuff like that. So I work with those as well. Sometimes, someone wants to build something and there's a kid fox den near them, and then, we try and find mitigation and stuff like that. But that's a different aspect of the job in terms of conflict.
So
Uh,
you're just keeping an eye out for the foxes half the time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And
Uh,
then you got weasels and, all the little like different weasels, pine martens, fishers are also sometimes will get involved in that kind of conflict.
yeah. I mean, like, can a weasel do any real damage? Or I mean,
Yeah.
they can.
Yeah. Oh yeah, definitely. Weasels they'll kill animals like twice or three times their size. So like they'll happily like try and take it down like chickens or bunnies or like actual huge rabbits and stuff like that. They'll do some damage
That's
for
crazy,
sure.
man.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen a weasel in the wild.
Yeah. I mean,
They're probably pretty sneaky.
I've seen one twice, but that's pretty much like all there is to it. They're pretty sneaky. And I've seen a pine marten once too, but
All
yeah,
right.
if you
Yeah, I'm
don't
gonna
want to
say
see them.
if even you have only seen a weasel in the wild twice, that's that's like the sneakiest animal that's out there, man.
I mean, you see that, but I also know people that like have gone out hiking once in California and saw a mountain lion and have never seen a mountain lion before, right?
Yeah,
Um, I think it comes partially to do with the fact that like I'm a fairly big dude. I don't try and not make noise when I'm walking,
yeah,
right? So it kind of does limit my wildlife encounters somewhat. All my encounters have always been accidental and
yeah,
never intentional, but it's just the way it is, right?
yeah, yeah. I saw like I ran into a bear once. I felt super lucky, but I guess that's like I'm maybe in California that's way more common.
I don't
Ever,
know. Like I've ran into like a bear with a cub. That was my first bear encounter, which was really terrifying.
oh yeah, that's scary as hell.
And I ran into like a couple of other ones in the past, but like I don't think I run into them that much. And one of my field sites is like, I don't want to use the word littered with bears, but there's like bear sign everywhere, and there's at least 4 or 5 bears that are constantly on my cameras, sometimes missing me or I miss them 10 minutes apart, but I don't see them that often. And like I said, it's partially because I'm not shy about making noise when I'm walking. And you know,
Uh, I was sorry. I was just thinking like every once in a while, like I just have a thought shooting in my head that's like
you're
from
good.
that's so off topic, but I was just thinking it's from this documentary that I was watching. It was a place where tiger attacks were common,
Hmm.
and it was could have been. I'm pretty sure it was tiger. And you were just saying that you make a lot of noise when you walk, and that, mountain lions are probably more likely to get out of your way. But there was this
Hmm.
place where people were doing this thing where they had masks.
Yep.
They'd wear them back, so they'd wear a backwards mask on their head,
Yep.
so that any tiger that came up on them wouldn't. They would be under the impression that they weren't sneaking up.
Yep.
That's so
Yeah.
gnarly.
It's really common. And there's also like there's trial. I don't know if it's been tried a lot in the US, but there's places in Africa and in India where they paint eyes on the back of the cattle. So they paint a
Oh,
giant eye
crazy.
on each part of the cattle's butt, for lack of a better word. And that just kind of like, looks like if it's you're not being sneaky, you're being noticed, which
Yeah,
helps. Yeah. I
cats
have a
like to be sneaky.
bandana. I have a bandana that has little two eyes. I think it's just a joke, not a joke design, but it was just designed with that just idea in mind. I don't think when I bought the bandana, I didn't think it was just for that, but I also just wear it that way, just on the off chance.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Better safe than sorry, man.
Yeah.
Oh, this is kind of a silly question. Maybe have you ever been bit by anything, like maybe like at work or
Not really.
uh
I don't know. I'm trying to remember. Like, I mean, when I was a kid, I got stung by jellyfish and stuff like that, but not like
okay.
anything,
Nothing,
anything
no
big.
battle scarred chunks got taken out. I was just
No,
curious, like when
no.
because you're talking about working with these animals that definitely
Hmm.
will take a snap at you. I
Yeah,
mean,
I mean, I think it's like everything else. You see these videos on, various platforms and stuff like that, and they're all terrifying, videos and examples of what these animals can do. But the idea is that, for at least for me, that's a huge outlier, right? You see people interacting with mountain lions on social media and they're like, oh, it stalked me or whatever. I know for a fact more than once that I've been a minute apart from a mountain lion, right? I've
yeah.
seen it on camera. When I was in Greece and I was doing wolf surveys, there was a few times where I set up the camera, I wave at it, I walk by, and then 5 minutes later, there's like three wolves, right?
Oh, that's cool.
I've woken up to my camp and there's like wolf prints and even once bear prints right on the ground. And I just, I think it's one of those things where like, I think people really should realize the fact that like they're out there, they're just really good at hiding and staying quiet. And humans, as much as I hate to say it, are also really shitty about noticing things.
Oh yeah, we're the worst, dude. We're like
Uh,
like if it wasn't for technology, we would be like some of the dumbest ass animals.
well, and oh, sorry, give me a second. There we go. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, we're very vision based. So if an animal stands still and it blends into the bush, you're not going to see it very well,
Yeah,
right? Like all my encounters with coyotes and bobcats, and stuff like that have all been encounters that I've bumped the animal, or they were like, okay, I'm gonna start walking, and I'm like, oh look, it's that animal, right?
yeah.
Um, and even with coyotes, like I've had more than my fair share of encounters where they've popped in like 6, 10 feet away from me, like from the bushes, just to look at what I'm doing, and just I've never felt unsafe, you
Oh
know.
yeah. I love coyotes, man. And I know that they like in a large group, and if they're hungry, they could be dangerous. But that's like the only predator animal that I really feel like that I've been real close to in their own environment.
Hmm.
And I can, I know they're there. Coyote, like there's a place I used to mountain bike in Arizona where all the coyote, it's a riverbed that's like never doesn't have water in it almost ever. Like for most, is only during monsoon season,
Right,
and all the coyotes live in it. And I would just go ride my bike through it, and like I guess they're kind of like they see a lot of people, so they're not
right.
really afraid of people, and they just look like little dogs. So I've never been sketched out by coyotes yet.
Yeah,
Knock on wood.
yeah. I mean, it's tough. Like every now and then, at least I get the realization, right? I roughhouse with my dogs, and I put my hand in their mouth, and I kiss them and stuff like that. And sometimes you just kind of look at their teeth and go like, wow, if you snap, you can do a lot of damage,
Yeah, take your
right?
finger right off.
If you really want to, you can do a lot of damage to me. And here I am, like pushing you around and shoving you on the ground, and you're shoving me on the ground, and we're like playing around. And obviously I don't do that to coyotes, but it's just it's tough because you can't perceive, at least for me, you can't perceive something as a threat until it becomes a threat, right? Um, and yeah, especially with mountain lions, I'm not really scared. Like if I ever do carry a gun with me, I carry it for feral pigs, nothing else.
Oh, yeah. Man, I always forget about them. Those are like pretty dangerous animals. They'll
Yep.
charge. Yeah, we had when I was in Tucson, we had a lot of javelinas, which is some kind of like
Hmm.
they're like a subspecies of those
Yeah,
guys.
they're a different species, but yeah, they behave very similar to
Or
it.
yeah, they're
Yeah,
different species.
yeah,
Yeah, dude, you've been hearing about all the radioactive boars that are coming
yeah.
out now.
In Chernobyl.
There's a ton in Chernobyl and there's a ton in Fukushima, and that's actually one of the biggest problems because the Japanese government wants people to start moving back into Fukushima, but
Hmm.
so much of the farmland has just been utterly destroyed. So like the radioactivity like wasn't a problem to the boars have thrived, and
Yeah.
so they're out there like thriving, and there's no human population to like that used to keep them in smaller numbers. And the
Yep.
craziest thing is, I think wild boar meat is considered like I don't know if it's a delicacy, but it's considered like good food in that
Yeah.
area, and people can't eat it because it's like those boars are 300 times the radioactive safety level. That's
Yeah.
nuts.
I've had boar when I went hunting for some in Austria, and that kind of meat I would eat. I wouldn't eat the feral pigs here. I mean, actually, that's a lie because I have eaten some feral pig here, but like some of them, I'm like, you're either eating trash or you're cannibalizing your own counterparts, and so
Yeah.
I'm no.
Yeah, they're so smart, man. It's like eating a dog, dude.
Yeah.
Uh so so like here's like a hypothetical, man. Like you've got so you got this dead livestock. You go,
Hmm.
you've done your forensic research. You're like, I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word. You've done your research, and you're like, all right, this is either a coyote or a wolf or a mountain lion, whatever it may be. What are they like? And the rancher is going to let you take care of it. What are you going to do, man? Like, what is your approach to that?
Just scare tactics, right?
Oh, so you don't like try to like trap these guys and like
No.
move them or anything.
No, that's the State Department if that's a thing that they'll do. Sometimes relocating the animal actually hurts it more than letting it stay in that area or spooking it away. Um, hang on a minute and stop my dog from being too noisy. Yeah, so yeah, that's the State Department's job. And for me, it's mostly just spooking them. And the idea is I don't want to scare them away from that area, right? I don't want to create this area where it's a no-go for them. I just want them to move as fast as they can in that area, get what they need to get, and then get out, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I usually do this by creating the presence. It depends on the animal, right? But you try and create the presence of a human in the area, or something that's like puts them on edge long enough so the bigger part of livestock depredation is that it's an animal that's comfortable enough around these livestock and they spend a lot of time with them and then eventually go, okay, I'm going to try and kill this animal, right?
Yeah.
um, Either because the livestock have run and that triggers the prey response in the predator, or they're just hungry or whatever it is, or they're whatever makes them attack. But the idea is that if you keep them uneasy and you keep them, okay, I just need to get some water and keep moving to try and find deer, uh, then that's what a successful coexistence is, at least to me. Is these guys, the rancher doing his thing, having his livestock and so forth, and then spooking the animals enough to keep them in the habitat that they are in the areas that they are, but also like not have them just linger around.
So like
Or
spooking him is that like a an auditory thing? Are you trying to like scare him off with sounds or
yeah, yeah, the approach is different per the animal. There's sometimes, so like I use some devices called fox lights, and you put them really kind of high up and they imitate a human walking around with a flashlight, right? So an
okay?
animal will see that from far away and go, okay, there's humans there walking around with their lights on, right? And like, I'm not going to go to that location. I do put podcasts out. Like I have these weatherproof radios. I don't have a lot of them anymore, but I have like some weatherproof radios, and I just put them up high up, and I put voices on them. So like usually it's podcasts because they, uh, there's a lot of people talking, and there's not just music,
Yeah.
and the animals hear it and they go, "Oh, okay." Especially mountain lions don't like human voices, so they won't go in that area very often, or they'll leave immediately. I've
Damn.
got
You
other
probably
things.
can't use this one we're doing because like the mountain lions will hear us and they'll be like they'll realize we're too cool
Hmm.
and they're like, no, these guys are cool, man. This is
Oh,
safe.
I was
You
actually
gotta.
just gonna ask you, like, as soon as this is done, if I can use it, because
Oh
yeah,
yeah, no,
like the
I was just joking around, man.
no,
I was just
definitely.
trying to think like, you might want to just find a podcast with an asshole on it so that the animals are more freaked out.
Well, I mean, you laugh, but either way, I'm not gonna. Whatever.
Well,
I used to
I'm not
use
naming any names, dude.
Yes, I used to use like some podcasts that because the people in the podcast like to talk a lot. But I changed now, and I talk to people that I know that have podcasts. I'm like, hey, can I use your podcast for this?
Yeah.
Um,
That's
and
an honor, man. I would be honored to be used in a non-lethal, like, predator,
just your
pr-
voice
just
echoing in the woods at
and like, yeah,
night.
yeah, like to just be a part of keeping these beautiful creatures alive, man.
Yeah, of course. That's the thing, and it does work. And it works a lot with mountain lions. Coyotes is where the real. I don't want to use the problem. I guess I would use challenge. It's where the real challenge lies.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that I have other devices called critter getters that they're motion activated, and as soon as you go by, they just make a shit ton of noise and flash a bunch of lights and stuff, and
Oh, crazy.
that that spooks usually does a really good job at spooking bears. Um, and then obviously there's livestock guardian dogs, and if the rancher wants to go down that route, then we talk about me paying for some of that money or some of the food or some of whatever to work on that. um, and
What kind of dogs do that work?
Pyrenees are a good example, and then you have Anatolian Shepherds. It kind of depends on the breed that you want. Usually, a good idea is that you want to have some barkers,
Yeah.
and you want to have some like guard protectors, and then you also want to have some aggressors. So you want to kind of ideally you want a mixed bag, but Pyrenees dogs like the Great Pyrenees usually do a good job by themselves.
Oh, so you throw a
Um,
whole pack of dogs out there.
Yeah, I mean, depending on the scale of the operation, you could have like a bunch of dogs running around all the time.
I mean, that
Um,
definitely sounds like, I mean, you can't beat that, man. A pack of dogs. Like
it's
what could be
so
better?
exactly. So like it's one of those things where in my field at least you constantly see people coming up with like these amazing technological leaps and bounds to, conflict and stuff. And to go back to like I guess not Fukushima, but to go back to Japan, there was a recent example where they were trying to spook bears off I don't remember the region of Japan, and they used this giant robot wolf. It was just a
Well,
wolf, a
oh, like a
robot
Boston
wolf.
Dynamics type thing.
Yeah, I don't know if it was mobile or not, but yeah, it's a really weird. Like if you look at it, if you Google search the images, it's like looks like something like out of a nightmare.
Yeah.
And it does work, and it works, but I always find that with technology, there's a temporary aspect to it, right? The animals are eventually going to get used to it. But you throw in a pack of dogs that are animals and will behave like animals, and sometimes will behave unpredictably or behave predictably. I think for me, that's one of the best deterrents, right?
Man,
Um,
I was uh I want to go back to the robot wolf for 1 second
yeah,
because
for
that was
sure.
something I really wanted to ask you about, not specifically that tech, but just in general. Like, I mean, I don't know if you're like keeping your eyes on like what might be coming down in the future, but are there like, do you think there's any like techniques or technologies that are still in development that'll be things that maybe you might end up employing like in
Yeah,
5 years or something like that?
yeah, absolutely. So like, shout out. There's a place in Idaho, Lava Lake. Uh, Lava Lake. I'm pretty sure it's Lava Lake Sheep Company or Sheep Ranch. And they're specialists there. He does a lot of really cool stuff, and they have. I look. We talk with each other and stuff. They have a collar that has um, what's the word? Flashing lights on it. So like, or when the dog starts barking, there'll be flashing lights when the dogs when that way. So it adds reinforcement. The dog barks, and then the animal thinks, oh, there's a human kicking around. There's some tags that they put on the animal's ears, on the livestock ears, that will start flashing when they start moving again, because sheep are going to start moving if they see a wolf, and so that gives off that impression. I don't, in terms of like more high tech stuff, I know that there's some development with drones and stuff like that, and there's some ideas floating around with paintball armed drones and stuff like that. And
Fuck that. I feel like I'm sorry. I just feel like everybody. I feel like everybody always like the answer to everything now is drone.
Yeah, so I mean, apart from the various regulations that come from flying a drone and stuff like that, you want the goal is to try and get something that can be applicable throughout a variety of landscapes, right?
Yeah.
And that it's low budget and that it works, right? So for me, if I come up and tell a rancher, okay, cool, you want to coexist with coyotes, right? You need a $20,000 drone,
Yeah.
right? They'll just say, screw it. But I mean, I know price of ammo is higher now than before, but it's still cheaper to go out and shoot 5 coyotes than it is to buy that drone, right?
I regret my knee jerk reaction. So when you said, it's just something about saying a drone flying around shooting paintballs at animals, it just pissed me off. Like, does that make sense?
I mean, it's nothing to regret about it. I think it's like I think it's an idea, and I think it might have certain applications to it.
Yeah, for sure.
I just think it's one of those things where, like, for me, trying to go over the high end aspect of it is instantly like eliminating a huge part of the population that has human wildlife conflict stuff, right? Because even if you are, for whatever reason, a wealthy rancher in North America that can afford to buy a drone, what about the guys in, like, the Himalayas that lose animals to snow leopards? They're not going to have a drone.
Yeah.
Right. And even if they do have a drone, the weather conditions in there probably won't be conducive to flying a drone half the year and stuff like that. So I like low tech and more resilient solutions because I think it has a much more lasting effect.
And there's no way you can beat it. Like if you can develop a scent and you're like, all right, I'm going to put this scent on this particular whatever the strategic location. It's going to keep these animals from taking like this corridor into this area, whatever, however you may need to use it. That's it's as low tech as you can possibly get. It it probably can't cost more than a few bucks per tube, and instead of having a $20,000 drone flying around shooting paintballs at wolves.
Well, I mean, that's what the idea is. So like that's where my research is. So it all, like, this all started where there's a rancher in Northern California that uses human sense to deter wildlife from his livestock, and he's been doing it for a long time, and he's only had like one calf killed in like 7 years or something like that. So it's an incredibly low number. And so I'm taking what he's doing and I'm kind of adding things to it and actually taking measurements and how effective it is. And it's like I literally use dollar store products, right? Or like the really, really cheap stuff, because particularly the smellier the detergent, the better.
Yeah.
Right. And so, I just go out there and I hang them up once a week or once every 2 weeks and like let them do their thing, and they dissipate into the atmosphere, and that's as low budget as you can get, honestly. And
it's amazing how repellent certain animals find humans to be, like our scent. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I found really interesting. It was like smoking, so like cigarette ashes and clothes soaked in smoke and stuff like that, also like have a huge effect in it. And that was really something that was really funny because I wanted to research it, but I'm an ex-smoker, so I was like, I don't want to start smoking again.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to interact with cigarettes a whole lot. But I had to find a way to like basically hotbox just like rags and stuff into cigarette smoke and stuff. It was just really interesting.
Man, I'm in the same boat, dude. I'm an ex-smoker myself.
Yeah.
And the last thing I want to do is like do experiments with cigarettes. like now that I'm a free man. I'm finally free. I'm not going down that road again.
I got to do it for the sake of wildlife.
But right? Yeah, man, you're doing it for a noble cause.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, so man, uh, we were talking about earlier. We were talking about the camera traps, which
Hmm.
you know, I know it's like technical for your job and stuff. But do you do any kind of like wildlife photography just for the sake of doing it, just like
Man,
artistic, or for, or like you know how like some people like to hunt with a camera?
right. I wish I had the time.
Oh yeah,
Um, the only thing that I do like in terms of that is sometimes when I do put cameras out, I like to get creative with my location and stuff. So like I have a really nice picture of a coyote that I took that I just found a cow skull in the middle of like the plains. And I put my camera down in that particular angle. And I was like, I want to see if I can get an animal coming over and looking at the skull from this location with this backdrop and stuff like that. So that's the extent of my creativity in terms of how it can go.
just kind of
I wish I had more time.
creating a tableau with your
Yeah.
work camera. Yeah,
Yeah. I
I
wish I
saw
had more
I saw
time.
that photo.
That's a cool photo, right?
I gave it a like on Instagram. If guys, if you're listening out there, go check it out, man. Go give that photo a like. It's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I wish I had more time. Sometimes like I do carry a camera with me if I know, like, especially with elk and pronghorn, if I'm around the area and it's a fairly safe bet that I'll see them. I do carry a camera with me to try and get some good pictures. Uh, but I just don't have the money and the time to invest in really good gear and stuff like that. But it is something that I do want to do because you can make your own homebrewed camera traps using, DSLR cameras.
Yeah,
Like if you go and see any of those cameras, they're amazing shots, right? That people get, and it's as much work to get that kind of shot as it is to like actually just take the picture yourself. So I do want to eventually buy one of those, but the idea of putting $2,000, $3,000 worth of equipment in the woods and leaving it unattended for a particular amount of time is just not very appealing to me right now.
man, that goes so far against my argument too, dude, because the weapons are so much cheaper. You know, like
Yeah, yeah,
I was actually going to ask you this, and I don't want to put you on the spot or sound like I'm pushing my agenda, but people who listen to this podcast, they already know how I feel about trophy hunting, and they know that
right.
I don't approve of it. But if if there is someone listening who's like considering, just picking up a gun and going out and killing a wild animal for a trophy, is there anything that you might say to them about like to make them maybe reconsider and give the camera a shot, even though it does sound like an expensive trade up because the gun's cheaper?
So it kind of depends, right? I'm conflicted in terms of the term trophy hunting,
Yeah,
in and of itself. So like I hunted in the past. I haven't done it in the US, but I did it in Europe. Uh, and when I did it, well, I was going after red deer, and I wanted a big ass red deer, right? I wanted a huge red deer, like a big old bull with like giant antlers and stuff like that. And to me, that kind of like mindset of I'm going to spend all my time and effort trying to get that animal is okay, right? That's what you have in your head. You should do that, right? In the end of the day, if you don't pull the trigger, that's fine. Now,
yeah.
when we're talking it in terms of the traditional sense of like trophy hunting, which you're like, I just want to have something mounted on the wall,
You just want to cut
right?
off its head, mount it. Yeah,
Yeah, then it's kind of a mixed bag. It depends. I know there's countries in which that kind of trade helps them. It helps overall conservation, right? Um, for me,
yeah. I know what you're saying. Like some of those hunting preserves in certain countries, it
mhm,
actually manages to keep more space for the animals. Like we said
mhm,
earlier, with certain types of outdoorsmen in the
right,
United States.
right, yeah, exactly. So for me, the biggest thing is that it depends on the reasons why you want to do it, and then where you're doing it and why you're doing it, right?
Yeah,
So if you just woke up one day and you're like, you know what would look really good on the mantelpiece, a wolf, right? Um, then yeah, you get a camera, like get a really good picture of a wolf. It would be the same,
it would be the
right?
same, wouldn't it? Like,
And there is something to be said, like from the perspective of having an animal, chasing that animal, and then eventually killing it, right?
yeah,
It feels really primitive and it's a very primitive circle of completion. Um, But I draw the line in terms of my hunting, at least, to animals whose meat I'd eat, right?
Yeah.
And anything that eats meat as part of its primary basis of diet for me is a no-go, right? I go back and forth with bears, but like with anything else, I'm like, no, I don't like, I have no inclination to eat mountain lion. I have no inclination to eat wolf or coyote or anything like that. Um, so it's just, so it depends. Like it hugely depends on the reason. If you're going to go out to kill coyotes because someone told you, oh, they eat all the deer fawns, right? And they
Yeah.
decimate the ecosystems and stuff. Do some more reading. Do they actually decimate the ecosystems? Do they actually eat as many deers as you think, deer fawn especially, as you think they do? Like, because, and there's also a huge amount of research that proves that, like, if you do kill these animals, you're leaving a vacuum that other
Yeah.
animals are going to come in and take over, right? So for me, when ranchers tell me, okay, well, I want to shoot this mountain lion, I want to shoot these coyotes and stuff like that, my biggest thing is, and this is something that really has successfully worked a lot, is the devil you know versus the devil you don't know,
Yeah.
right? So for example, if you know what's scare, if you have a mountain lion in your area, it's killed one of your sheep, you figured out, okay, it gets spooked if it listens to podcasts and if I have flashing lights or whatever, and you keep that mountain lion at bay, would you prefer then to go shoot that mountain lion and have another one come in, which you don't know if it's scared by the same things or not? Or
Yeah.
would you rather have a mountain lion living in the area, because one will eventually live in the area because you are a mountain lion habitat,
Yeah.
right? And also, and so that's the idea. The devil is more of that. And I think for me as well, the idea of hunting trophies or whatever in terms of predators is, are you doing it in a fair way, right? Now, if
Yeah.
you're gonna jump on your little, like, I don't know, they're not jet skis, they're snowmobiles. If you're gonna jump on your snowmobile with a gun and chase down a wolf and just like keep chasing it with your snowmobile and then eventually shoot it, I personally don't think of that's a fair chase at all, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you're gonna put hours and hours in the woods, like tracking a wolf, watching and whatever, and then eventually you want to pull the trigger, I still I don't want to do that. I don't have that inclination, but I think that's definitely a more fair way to go about it if you want to do it. But yeah, like, just, I don't know, like in this day and age, is, you know, with, especially with cameras and stuff, just buy a camera and go out and do it if you really want to, like, you want to feel that connection to the animal, that stalking, that aspect, all that kind of stuff. Um, but you don't have anything to bring home. You don't have anything to claim as your own. So I hate to, like, basically bust a little bit on your agenda here, because I do have like a lot
I,
of conflicting
I
feelings on
think
this.
I think you gave a fair answer though, man. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm the one. I have an agenda and I make it, the thing is, I don't try to hide it. I don't try to
right.
like
Yeah,
hide that what my opinion on trophy hunting is. And like you said,
right,
there are different ways to evaluate what trophy hunting is,
right.
by different standards. So, but I think you had a fair answer. There's more than one side of this discussion and
Yeah.
this is more than one culture. There's more than one country we could be talking about.
And I mean, I think, like, it's one of those things as well where I kind of draw the line in terms of how you hunt, right?
Yeah.
I don't have a problem with someone who decides that they're going to go and hunt coyotes. I don't really have a problem with that necessarily if all they want to do is just to go out and shoot that animal, right? Like, I have issues, again, like I said, if they're doing it for misinformed reasons or whatever. But if they're just like, no, I like hunting coyotes, great, cool,
Are you
more
are
power to
you
you.
are you familiar with the song "True Men Don't Kill Coyotes" by the Red Hot Chili Peppers?
Yes, yeah, it's a really
Fucking,
old.
it's one of their oldest songs,
Yeah,
man.
it's one of
It's
the really old song.
I
Yeah,
I had that on cassette tape when I was a little
yeah,
kid, man, and it's off this. It's back when they didn't have like really have any hits that much, and they came out with an album called "What Hits," like they didn't have
yeah.
any. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So, but anyway, I just want to. I I would be remiss if I didn't push my agenda just one little bit right here and
Of
say that
course.
the Red Hot Chili Peppers have a song called "True Men Don't Kill Coyotes," and you know what? If me being disappointed in you is not enough, do you really want Flea, Anthony Kiedis, the guy that was in James, the guitar player. I'm losing. Whatever, man. All those guys. Dave Navarro. Do you want those guys to be disappointed in you? No. So don't kill coyotes.
Yeah,
That's
I
my
mean,
agenda.
so that, and that's the thing, right? It's from a hunter perspective. Like, I know people that will go out of their way to make the life of those animals miserable, right? They'll shoot them in the ass, right? Or
Yeah.
they'll shoot a leg off or whatever and cripple that animal and just walk away and not finish the job and everything like that. And obviously, like for me, that there's no good way to put that. There's no good spotlight
There's
to
only
put
one way
that,
to put that,
right?
and that is
So animal abuse, right?
clinically psychopathic behavior.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, like absolutely on the same page, right? If you are going to be a person who is going to be like, I'm going to go out, the coyotes need to be managed or whatever, and I'm going to go out and shoot coyotes. If you try and do one shot, one kill, which is what you should be doing as a hunter to begin with, right?
Yeah.
Then I have a little bit more, like not a little bit, I have a lot more respect for you than I have with someone who is vindictive and who is like, and it's not an outrageous comment to say that especially coyotes suffer a lot of like hatred towards them for no particularly good reasons, right?
Absolutely,
um
man. And I'll say this, man. I'll get out right off my soapbox again. I've already said that the Red Hot Chili Peppers have my back on this one. They wrote a whole song about it, but I will say, and I think it's totally fair in me saying this, dude. If you go out and you kill a coyote or a wolf, purely to just be vindictive, and then on the way home you stop at Burger King and that's what you eat, don't like, then you don't get any respect from me. That's my final word.
yeah, yeah, and yeah, that's ultimately the thing is, you're gonna, at least for me, is like if I'm gonna kill something, if I'm gonna spend the time and energy or even just the mental process, because it is, for me and for a lot of other hunters, it's a very emotional thing to take someone's life, right?
Yeah.
Or well, I guess I shouldn't say someone, some animal's life, just in case it's misrepresented. But like, yeah, to kill that animal is very emotionally taxing. And so, like, if I'm gonna go through that process, then I'm gonna use the meat. I'm gonna harvest as much as I can, right? And put everything to good use because that's why I do it, and that's why a lot of people do it instead of just being like, I'm gonna go out and go target practicing on coyotes.
Yeah, man. And Petros, man, I do want to like also apologize for dragging you into such a
I
minefield of
don't.
a conversation,
No,
but
no.
it
My
is
field
like,
of a conversation is human wildlife conflict in North America. So you're good.
yeah, for sure, man. It's just,
You're good.
I'm coming at it from a clear, I'm totally biased, and I know that you have a complex job. You got to, and like you said, you have to deal with people. You got public relations you got to deal with, man. So I know that it's important for you to look at this from every angle. And
Hmm.
I can sit over here on my, ivory tower and I don't have to look at it from any angle other than what I personally, my gut reaction to it is.
So you just kind of nailed it on the head in terms of what one of the main problems with human wildlife conflict is, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of people like trying to judge each other without having each other's experiences. So like I've been to ranches where like there have been livestock depredations by a mountain lion or whatever, and you look at mountain lions, any picture you look, they're really cool animals, right? There's no way to put it. They're really cool animals.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I don't I don't hide it. I don't make a point of hiding how the fact that I do like especially predators. I think they're awesome. But you do go over there and you see these people like crying because they were either emotionally attached to that animal or that animal dying cost them like 5 grand or something like that, right? It's not a small
Yeah.
amount of change. And so you, in order to do this job, you do need to be, if nothing else, empathetic, right? And try and understand someone else's job. And the biggest problem is that, you can't approach it from a very singular point of view because it doesn't work that way, right? You need to be able to try and reach a compromise. And this doesn't work just from my perspective. It's like I tell the people that I work with as well. It's like, okay, yeah, you have your operation, you run it the way you want to run it, and everything's fine. You also have to try and come and meet me halfway, right? And tell me, yes. And when I tell you you can't go out and shoot a mountain lion, it's illegal. I'm not trying to push some sort of weird agenda on you. I'm just literally telling you the law,
Yeah.
right? So if you want
Yeah.
to go out and shoot a mountain lion, cool. do it. You're breaking the law. Don't tell me about it. If you tell me about it, I'm going to report you. That's how that works, right?
And to buttress your statement there too, you know, I could take it like to the other side of the United States. We could take it to let's say Florida, where they have a completely different style of human wildlife conflict. And of course, like right now, you know, you and I have been talking about mammals, and particularly like, you know, there's no other way to put it, cool you know, the kind of animals that people airbrush and put on t-shirts, you know,
Right,
wolves howling
exactly.
at the
Yeah,
moon
yeah,
and
yeah.
cool mountain lions. But you know, like let's say like something not so cuddly, like an alligator. And I'm sure there's plenty of people in Florida that are like, these things are a nuisance. I hate this. You know, an alligator ate my neighbor's dog, and I fucking hate them. You know,
Right.
but at the same time, there's lots of places where you can't go poaching alligators, and you ought not to be doing it. So like, does that make sense? Like, where I can say that it just because it's not, you know, it's not a furry, cool, majestic looking creature to me. I still have the same opinion. Don't go
Yeah.
killing alligators where you shouldn't be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely like a thing, right? It's a not just the charisma of the animal, but also like, yeah, you you need to be like, you need to understand the confines of the law. And to get back to the very first question about in terms of you know ranching outfits or hunters changing the management of these areas, then yeah, sometimes they make it easier for you to go and shoot an animal, right?
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff, which is with coyotes, it's a thing in California, at least. I mean, it's it's nationwide, but in California, if you have an active hunting license and you have a legal way to kill a coyote, and so long as you do it, within regular hunting period, or within regular hunting aspects, you can kill as many as you want. You don't need a tag. You don't need anything. Like I could go out. I have a hunting license in California actually, so like even if I didn't spend $25, I think it may be 50 now, but in either case, get the permit, buy a gun, and go out and shoot as many coyotes as you want.
Yeah.
Right?
That is one of the
Perfectly
problems
legal.
too, is like what you're saying too, where like coyotes get this raw deal because there is, like you said, there is more charismatic megafauna. uh
Yeah.
you know, you go out there, you know, you go out and you kill a grizzly bear, just at, you know, I don't want to say in cold blood, but whatever, you know, you go out and kill a grizzly bear, people are going to take notice because it's such a, you know, and that's like, or, you know, I don't want to go down this road for more than a second, but like that dentist that shot killed a
Right.
lion, and
Right. Right. Right.
he kind of fucked up his career. Like people didn't want to go get their teeth pulled by him anymore because
Yeah.
they thought he was, you know, a rotten guy. So yeah, but no, yeah, there's not a lot of people out here advocating for coyotes besides us and the Red Hot Chili Peppers.
I mean, there's a lot of people actually like that are trying to end the killing contest. So it's like an event. It's a 1 or 2 day event or whatever, and you get points by how many coyotes you kill.
Oh man,
And they,
that's
yeah, and or wolves or bobcats. Sometimes there's a mixer of them, and there's like a lot of organizations that are trying to end that kind of thing, right? Um, it's like if you exclude the emotional aspect of that, right? There's a lot of ecology involved in the fact that like you just killed the meso or apex predator of that area for the next like 20 miles or whatever. You're creating a huge vacuum. You're inviting more animals to come in. It's a
yeah,
it's a huge thing in and of itself in terms of ecological aspects wise. But um yeah, you know even with this kind of management of like the coyote of being like full able to shoot the animal whenever you want, I tell the people that I work with, I don't want you shooting them. Here's why I don't want you shooting them. Let's
yeah,
try all these things first. And then if none of these things work, then we can talk about you shooting them. Right.
absolutely,
And it is a
yeah,
very somber thing and it's a very like heartening thing, but there is a time and a space in human wildlife conflict that you have to be okay with the trigger being pulled. Right.
yeah,
You have to be okay with the fact that like, okay, oh, I've tried every trick in the book. These animals are not responding. They're going to keep on killing livestock. It's either this operation dies out or that animal dies out. And I've faced my fair share of criticism from a lot of different sides. Some people saying like, oh, you're advocating for the agriculture aspect of it, And some people are saying like, oh yeah, you waited until 50 or their sheep died until, you eventually told them they can go kill this animal or whatever. Um, it's kind of hard because you get shit on by everybody.
Yeah.
But
You can't make
you,
everybody happy, so you got to at least
no,
pick what you think is right.
no, exactly. And honestly, like it's rough because you have to keep that option in the back pocket. But I just even emotional, even if you take the emotional or the charismatic aspect of the animal aside, there is a lot there's a lot of science out there that tells you that yes, try and spook it, but keep it in the area. It helps, right?
Yeah.
Um, it, it's a very similar thing with like wolves. Wolves will go out and kill coyotes, right? They
Yeah.
kill coyotes on sight most of the time. Coyotes are very good about adapting, being around wolves. They split up into smaller packs, right? They move differently and stuff like that. So if you are a livestock operator that has both wolves and coyotes in the area, you don't want to get rid of the wolves because that will increase the coyote population. You want to
Yeah.
be able to spook the wolves and be able to spook the coyotes as well at the same time. So the wolves keep the coyotes at check. And so you don't have to worry about a lot of coyotes and so forth. And coyote wolves, my understanding, I haven't interacted with them a lot in terms of deterring them, but wolves are a lot more predictable than what deters them versus coyotes. So
Yeah. Yeah, man. It is a delicate balancing act, man. And I commend you for being out here doing it. But man, I got to tell you one thing: we are dangerously close to the lightning round.
oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you've listened to much of this podcast, but there's a lightning round at the end of every episode. It's kind of the game section where I'll. It's different every time. All kinds of it can come in many different mutations, but basically it's
Uh-huh.
where I ask you questions rapid fire. You don't think, you just give an answer. This one,
Yeah.
this is a brand new way that the podcast has been going lately. This is written by co-producer Colleen. I have not even seen this. It's
Okay.
basically it's a Mad Lib. Uh, I don't know when the last time you did a Mad Lib was, man. But well, you said you got a toddler, so maybe you've done one recently.
Anyway, yeah, go on.
Anyway, I'm just gonna say like noun, adjective, whatever you say it, and then we're both gonna find out whatever this story we create is. You ready to play?
Okay. Yeah, sounds good. Shoot it.
All right, man. This Mad Lib is called Coyotes 101. Number
10.
plural animals.
Let's go coyotes. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Snack food.
Salt and vinegar chips.
That sounds good right now. Number
12.
outdoor activity.
Hiking.
Plural noun.
Chairs.
Adjective.
Ugly.
Awesome.
Is that an adjective? Yeah, that's
Yes.
yeah. Okay.
Plural noun.
Beds.
Verb.
Swimming.
Year.
1845.
1845. I heard that was a doozy of a year. Adjective.
Was it actually? I have no idea.
I have no idea what happened in
Okay.
1845.
Okay, good. I just pulled it out of my ass. Adjective. Ferocious.
That's a good adjective. Another adjective.
Calm.
And verb. We're almost there.
Verb. Stalking.
All right, adjective.
Let's go with powerful.
Verb.
Dancing.
And a nature organization.
Woof. You're gonna get me in a lot of trouble on that one.
If you want, man, I could fill this one in so you don't get in trouble, and you can say you can put it on me.
I don't know. I don't know like any. Let's go with a nature organization. That's such a broad.
It's such a broad.
Let's go with U.S. Fish and Wildlife.
All right, they deserve it. Whatever this is gonna say, it's probably positive. Co-producer Colleen always writes positive Mad Libs. I promise.
Good.
This is never it's never mean spirited. I can at least give you that bit of comfort. All right, very last thing.
Good.
Like an exclamation, but it's a phrase, so like an exclamatory phrase.
Oh dear.
Oh dear, that's a good one, dude. All right, let's find out what we just made because I have no idea. This is my first time looking at it. All I've looked at was the blanks that I filled in. Coyotes 101, a Mad Libs instructional document by co-producer Colleen and co-written by Petros. Have you ever wondered about coyotes? Well, get ready to learn 10 facts about them. First and most important, Coyotes love to eat coyotes and salt and vinegar chips. They often travel in groups of 12 for safety. That might be true.
Hmm.
Most people don't know this, but coyotes are really good at hiking. If you want to trap a coyote, lure it with chairs. That is sure to make it ugly. Coyotes are most afraid of beds. This is because they swim when they see them. This fear dates back to the year 1845. Coyotes have ferocious fur and usually calm eyes. They will stalk if approached too quickly, but don't let that fool you. They are actually quite powerful. If you ever see a coyote in the wild, definitely don't dance. Instead, call the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Hotline and say, "Oh dear," and they will come help. This should answer all your questions about coyotes.
Hey, it worked out for the most part.
That sounded pretty real. That sounded like a pamphlet you might pick up at like Joshua Tree State Park or like someplace.
Yeah, I mean, good job, Colleen, right?
Yeah, calm eyes. They are very powerful. Packs of
Mhm.
12. Does that sound legit?
Nah, that's I mean, in Eastern US, yeah, but in my neck of the woods, it's more like maybe 4.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think my little pack over here by my house is about 4. They're so cute,
Yeah.
man. They're about the size of my dog, and she wants to play with them, and I'm like, you cannot play with those
No,
those
no.
dogs.
No, no.
All right, man. First of all, I gotta say, uh, thank you so much, man. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
Just also like the work you do, all the shit's everything you do is so cool, man, and
Mhm.
I appreciate you taking the time. But
I appreciate you having me on.
the most important question I got to ask, I can't let you go without asking this. How can people like check you out, like find you, like maybe see your photography, anything like that, or anything you want to just let people know about?
Yeah, so my organization is called Predator Detection and Deterrence. The website is predatordeterrence.org. My Twitter handle is, for now at least, Twitter, P Chrysafis. And my Instagram is Chrysafis Petros. And yeah, my organization is on Facebook as well, so you can go click a like on that one. And that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else in terms of that. There are plans to get a little Patreon going to help me like get into that photography aspect a little more, but like I don't really like taking money from people. So for now, just come say hi and check the things that I say out. That's good enough for me.
Yeah, and take my word for it, guys. Petros is a cool follow, and if Twitter's still around, man, that's where we first, that's where I first started following him and
Yeah.
got interested in what he does. So let's hope things don't, let's hope things go well over there. I mean,
Yeah.
dude, by the time this podcast comes out, it could honestly not even exist. That's how things are at the moment. Thank you so much, dude.
Yeah. I appreciate you having me on.